Well, welcome, Dylan. I'm so excited to have you today and just get to chat with you and get to know a little bit more about you and your company, Justworks. And I thought before we begin, we should just talk about you and your background working in the PEO industry. Tell me, how did you get into the PEO world?
Yeah, thanks, Suzanna. I'm excited to be here. I've been at Justworks for almost 7 years now, and this is my first foray into the PEO world. It's been a great experience, but definitely I was more on the end user side before as an employee who was working at small companies. We didn't work with PEOs, but we worked with payroll providers and had, a non-attached benefit solution. So it was always kind of what I thought it worked like. I was working in restaurants and then I was selling wine as like a distributor and
Ooh,
importer.
selling wine. That sounds like fun.
It was the like carrying around 60 pounds of samples in like the
Oh,
summer in
that's,
New
yeah,
York
you
was
have to be
tough fun.
strong for that.
It was
Did you
character
ever
building.
get robbed?
Fortunately not, knock on wood. But yeah, no, it was so, kind of always like working with small businesses in that respect as an employee and like an end user of payroll and benefits and everything like that. And then I was doing sales, so I really liked the sales aspect of it and had a friend who was working at Justworks back when we were much smaller. I think I was employee about 110 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that was about 7 years ago. And I think today we're around 12 to 1,300 employees. So
Wow, they've grown a lot. I know they
yeah,
were fast growing, but that's pretty significant. Yeah.
yeah. So we've grown pretty quickly. It's been very cool to like see the company evolve as well as our
Hmm.
customer base, our, provider partners that we work with as well have just expanded so much. And we're really proud to say that we are now, I think, the fifth largest PEO in the country. Been a short ride, but a lot along the way.
So when you're working for a smaller company, like 100 employees, you really have that tight-knit culture feel. And then when they grow so drastically like that, it kind of feels like it's could be like corporate like. Talk to me about your experience as far as an employee of a company that's grown that quickly and that rapidly.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot and it has become more of a corporate life to use
Hmm.
the phrase. But one thing I do appreciate is we've retained this really human feel and aspect to it. There's a lot of collaboration when it comes to vetting vendors, problem solving, like being hands-on with the accounts that I bring on that are now with our
Hmm.
account managers and customer success teams. Like I know all those people really well, and I'm always happy to kind of dive back in. And it does have like a very, again, collaborative feel to it. Some of the corporate parts are really great though, in terms of like the wellness perks that we now have
Hmm.
internally as well as externally, the continuing education programs and things like that, we couldn't necessarily justify earlier on when we were so
Hmm.
small. We have like a lot of these amazing like development classes and things like that.
Excellent. Are some of that stuff, have you been able to see passed on to the clients as well, as far as additional perks and
Yeah, so one really awesome perk that is now formalized partnership with Justworks that's available to anyone participating in our benefits is a company called Kindbody. Have you heard of them
Mhm.
before?
No, I've never heard of them. Tell us about Kindbody.
So Kindbody is a modern service that has both brick and mortar locations as well as virtual services that's centered around fertility treatments, gynecology, and family planning. It's a really great supplement to traditional health insurance that's available for free for anyone participating in our benefits.
Oh, that's fabulous. Yeah, I've heard of PEO companies actually winning some deals based upon their benefits being able to cover a lot of that stuff, fertility type stuff, and a lot of the plans don't cover that. So that's kind of like a supplemental for those families that it's really important for then.
Yeah, and even if the health insurance covers like the actual like claims associated with like IVF and egg freezing and things like that, like there often isn't like that counseling component of it, of that like true family planning, like how you get guided through that entire process. So it's been awesome to supplement kind of the meat and potatoes of some of those like technical claims with
Hmm.
a more holistic treatment view.
Excellent. Well, let's dive into some of your clients and how you've been able to help them. So talk to us about some experiences of, that you've been able to help your clients either save money, help them with compliance, or help them grow and scale their businesses.
A lot of stories kind of in each of those categories, over the 7 years. But one thing that like really jumps out to me, and I was super proud of the way that we handled, was during COVID. So,
Mm-hmm.
obviously it changed how a lot of businesses operate. There became like government funding available, and then it went away really quickly. But one of the things that we did was that, because we are a very tech forward company that owns all of our own engineering, we were able
Mm-hmm.
to implement access to these government programs directly into your Justworks account within days of them getting passed through Congress. And so I had this one customer, they're based in Chicago, and they're like a home design company. And so going into people's homes was obviously something that was not able to do during COVID. So their business changed dramatically overnight, and their source of revenue dried up very quickly. And based on us getting the PPP application into the Justworks account very quickly, they were able to jump on that and get that first round of funding immediately. Like,
Wow.
or it dried up. And she called me emotionally and was like, this allowed me to keep
Did that keep her in business?
Yeah. Yeah. It made it so she didn't have to lay off her employees and was able to keep taking care of them in an industry that was like, so severely impacted. And so that was like a proud moment for us, for sure.
And how many employees did she have?
She had about 10 employees.
10
So not
employees. And what type of industry? Was it like a home healthcare industry? I know that was really affected quite a bit.
No, it was actually home design.
Oh, home design, where they're going into the home and doing the design
Yeah.
planning. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was also like an industry that, as people were watching costs, like it's not like home care where like that was essential, this was something that like people were going to push off in terms of,
Mm-hmm.
I can do a home project next year after the things are a little bit more settled down. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a really good example of like,
So is she's still in business and thriving?
yep, still a
All
happy job.
right. Good. Excellent. So you talk about these systems, the technology. You guys are tech forward. You're known for that. You got some technologies to help companies just get that PPP loan a lot quicker than a lot of other companies. What about the ERC credit? Is that something that you guys are working on for some of your clients?
Yep. Those are all rectified at this point, or at least submitted to the IRS for them to, do their part of it. And so again, like we're certified PEO with the IRS as well, as most like larger ones are. But that, direct line allowed us to act really quickly on that. And again, be proactive and fast in terms of taking advantage of these programs for our customers.
Okay. Are you guys charging your clients to do that?
No.
Okay. Are you guys keeping any of that money and then just giving them a credit on their invoices?
I don't know how the technical aspect of that works. I mean, you're not required to stay with Justworks in order to, get that money back. So I don't believe it's tied that way. But to be honest, like I am not on the operations side of, that distribution. So I can't like speak to the technical way that that's being reassessed.
Okay. Well, you probably, if it was being assessed that way, you probably would have been getting some calls from clients. So that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, I haven't gotten yelled at about it yet. So
yeah, I really like to partner with companies that are just passing the money, passing it through to their clients. If they want to charge a fee for their service, fine. But there's a lot of companies that are trying to retain that money and then just giving them a credit. And then you kind of feel like you're hostage to them. And
right.
if you're not happy with the service, you're like, I can't go because I'm getting this credit. So I just think people should just, be with you because they want to be with you, not because they're captive or tied to you in the other way.
Yeah, no, I haven't received any feedback that that's how we're handling it from.
That's good. That's good. So what else? You've been in the industry for quite some time, Dylan. What are some other good stories where you've been able to really help a company succeed?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's on the benefits side, right? So like that's a huge draw of PEOs, and why people do want to check them out initially is to save on health insurance, because that is become such an expensive part of running a business in this country.
Right.
So certain areas are impacted more than others. Like some are obvious, like New York City, California have like pretty expensive open market health insurance for small companies. One that's a little bit less obvious is the western slope of Colorado. So Durango area, a lot of different factors kind of go into it.
Yeah.
Like limited providers,
Yeah.
limited carriers,
Yeah.
and a high rate of like helicopter evacuations, believe it or not, like from some of these mountainous areas.
Yeah, they're constantly getting ski accidents and having to go fly in there and save somebody.
Exactly. And so these factors have really combined to make it a very expensive open market for small groups.
Yeah.
The small group threshold in Colorado is 100 employees. And so it's not even that small. But so I went out to Durango and met with a bunch of business owners that were just looking for any other solution when it came to like, how do we provide affordable insurance to our employees? And so we ended up being a really good fit for a few groups when it came to using the PEO master policies and getting those groups under 100, more of that enterprise style and cost of benefit. And so in particular, I know that there was a retirement planning services group that was around 30 employees that was able to save almost $50,000 in total premiums.
Yeah, that's a lot. That
Yeah,
is a lot on the bottom line, 50,000.
yeah, just on the
Yeah.
medical side of things too. And so that was it felt really good to be able to provide that kind of access to companies, but as well as like employees and families to be able to get really great care.
So were they just using a regular payroll service and then just had like an open market health insurance plan?
Yeah, just through a broker. The broker was actually the one that, was kind of our point of contact. And you realized that it was kind of, I don't want to say a broken system, but a very expensive system. And just wanted to do right by his clients. And even if that meant that he's no longer brokering their health insurance, he just wanted to put them in the right place.
Good. So I know I love Durango. I love Colorado mountains. It's just the network is really tough there. So what carrier did you put them with?
We did Aetna for some groups, and then we moved to UHC for Colorado. And so someone went with UHC. It was a bit of a mix and match.
Okay. Are you still offering, because I've noticed that on some of your quotes, are you still offering both, one or the other? Is that?
So Colorado has now been transitioned to a UHC state for us. And then it was Aetna, and we kind of grandfathered those Aetna companies. We didn't force them to switch carriers. They had the opportunity if they wanted.
Okay. So now going forward, it is United, which is a great network. Okay. Awesome. So you've helped a company with getting the loans from the government. You've helped a company save lots of money on health insurance, get them a good carrier, get them the network coverage that they need in an area that's very difficult. What else? What are some other stories that you've been able to help a company grow? I know you guys are really good as far as technology. I believe it was a software. They do gaming. It was video gaming software. And they really selected Justworks because of the technology. They were with another PEO company and just really liked the technology with Justworks, and they were able, their biggest factor was they really wanted one system to do the 1099, and your system allowed them to do that, and a lot of the other PEOs system didn't allow them to do that. So yeah, what are some other areas where you guys have helped companies?
Companies that use a lot of contractors, you're absolutely right. That can be a really good fit for us. We don't charge for contractors, and so you can make as many payments to contractors as you want to every business day of the month if you want. It doesn't impact your admin fees. And we'll also send out the 1099 come year end if someone earned more than $600 during the calendar year.
Yeah,
that's all automated. I think that like one other aspect that I don't want to say it's overlooked, but sometimes it could be a little bit taken for granted is like the support that we provide, both on like just an account management level, but also the HR consulting. And this is kind of one of those things where you, like, especially with HR consulting, it's like, you don't really know that you need it until you really need it, right?
Right, exactly. That's what I always say.
Yeah. And so that's something that's also wrapped into our admin fee and not like an add-on service or anything like that. And this is like a bit of a dramatic story, but I had a restaurant group in New York that I had signed up and were customers of mine. And unfortunately, someone ended up getting arrested from the workplace, based on like a warrant.
The cops actually went to the restaurant and arrested him right there in the restaurant?
Yeah. So it's like a pretty wild call to get at 7:00 in the morning on a Monday. Did breakfast. It was really good to be able to connect them with our HR consulting team immediately and talk about immediate next steps. Like, how do you best protect the company? How do you best protect the employee? How do you best protect the other employees who are there? And really navigate this like situation that like you hope never happens. And you certainly don't anticipate necessarily when you're a payroll provider. So that was, just an example of how that HR consulting can be on the more dramatic end of things. And then there's also the like, let's get on a call and talk about a policy in a handbook, about a visa situation and things that might be a little bit more day to day.
Awesome. That is a very good story. I always like to hear those HR stories that have just saved the day. Let's talk a little bit about how you got that restaurant group, because in my experience in over 16 plus years, I have found it very difficult to sign up a restaurant under a PEO because there's just low wages, lots of turnover. Oftentimes you can find savings on the health insurance, but there's not enough people participating in the health insurance to justify the savings. Sometimes they'll have the management group, carved out. So how did you get this restaurant group in the first place? I think every restaurant group should have a PEO for the HR and the compliance, but I found it very difficult to get them to sign off on it.
So they came over from a partner, so similar to yourself, where you're right, there wasn't like a giant amount of participation in the health insurance. And so it definitely was a bit of a like, where's the value and like how do you
Right.
quantify this? One thing that Justworks does is we charge a lower rate for part-time employees who are not benefits eligible. And so it does soften the blow
Okay.
from an admin perspective. But yeah, I came from a partner, like they were growing. They wanted to attract the best talent possible. And New York City, again, is just one of those places where health insurance on your own as a small company is really brutal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was basically a partner with a health insurance need approached us, and it ended up being a good fit.
Awesome. How many employees approximately?
So they,
Approximate full-time and then
yeah,
part-time.
yeah, they had a bunch of locations. I think it was around like 20 or so full time, and then about 40 part time for a total of about 60.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it sounds like you had the right partner bring you in. They probably realized not it wasn't just a benefits play, but with the high turnover, they need that HR support, and a restaurant like that doesn't have anybody internally.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. It tends to, I mean, this happens with a lot of small businesses, but I found it with I've worked with a couple restaurant groups, and in particular, people wear a lot of hats. Yeah. So whether it's like scheduling, doing like normal payroll admissions and everything like that, like HR is oftentimes like a thing that you really don't want to like have a ton of dedicated resources to in terms of, making an internal hire.
right. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. We certainly appreciate it. So we've
Yeah.
kind of talked, I think we've talked a little bit about JustWorks and how you guys have helped your clients. Talk to us about, your company in general. What makes a good client? What makes a good fit for your company? Because I work with a lot of different PEO companies, and every PEO company is a good fit for different clients. So what would be considered a really good fit for you guys?
It's a theme that we've talked about a little bit, but I think like a emphasis and appreciation of technology is oftentimes what can like make a really good fit. Like we've tried really hard to make our platform really intuitive,
Mm-hmm.
both from an admin perspective of like running payroll, like making, benefit selections for the group, just interacting with our support teams, but also for like a day-to-day employee who's not an admin. We have like a really great mobile app that you can pull up your benefits cards with, that you can request time off using, and just creating that like accessibility where employees feel empowered to kind of do some self-service themselves, when it comes to like managing their benefits or interacting with like our wellness perks and things like that. We want it to feel like no one's going to use it if it's hard to use, right? And we want
Right.
to use these perks. Being tech forward, but also like very simple and not overwhelming is
Mm-hmm.
definitely been like a tenet of ours. So I think an appreciation for that is makes a good fit. We are kind of expanding our risk appetites from a workers' comp perspective, but that's
Okay, talk to me more about that. What type of risk are you going to be taking now that you haven't been in the past? That's a good
yeah,
one.
this is like kind of not the PEO model, but like we now have like what we call Justworks payroll is premiering in a few states. It's being kind of slowly rolled out, but it's not a PEO. So like, maybe not like ideal for people who are looking for that level of coverage, but people who like Justworks, and like we've had to turn away a lot of people for workers' comp reasons in the past. And so like by having preferred workers' comp providers and still taking care of a lot of the other things that we do without the formal PEO title, and having preferred partners to pair with workers' comp, and now we have benefits brokerage internally and everything like that. Like that's a way for us to kind of like not have to turn as many groups away. So that is for construction, roofing, like house painting, that type of like exposure. But then we can still do, PEO coverage for groups that are doing like architecture, like on-site visits to construction that aren't the actual construction companies. Is something that we haven't been able to cover as well in the past that we can now do. We have more hospitality. So I mentioned the restaurant groups.
Mhm.
And so that's been like something that we can, kind of accommodate on our PEO model now. So yeah, things along those lines. I think it'll be a while before we can do like gas and mining companies,
Uh-huh.
unfortunately, because I live in Colorado. But yeah, slowly but surely, we're expanding the risk appetite.
Awesome. So it sounds like you guys are going to, is it the same technology that the PEO users would use, just it's like a payroll only platform?
Yeah, so that's the
Okay.
idea. Is it looks and feels very similar to Justworks PEO, just without some of those like restrictions when it comes to workers' comp or co-employment, because there's other things that all PEOs struggle with, like union workers and like doing parsonage for religious groups and things like that. Just some of the other compliance things that co-employment don't allow. We're able to still help out those groups that might have some of those structures.
Excellent. So are you guys going to be doing the benefit administration for open market health plans on the payroll only?
Yes.
Okay. Good to hear. Good to hear. Glad to hear that. So, all right. Well, I appreciate your time and chatting with us. Is there anything else you would like to add or say since we're
Yeah, I think that we touched on a lot of the things that makes Justworks what it is. I think that one thing that we've been thinking about a lot recently is social impact. And so it's something that I'm really proud of us as an organization for doing. We've developed a nonprofit arm,
Oh,
Justworks.org. And so in 2022, we granted 5 winners $50,000 grants that are nonprofits that are basically about working to level the entrepreneurial playing field for women and minority owned small businesses.
I
Um,
love
and,
that. Yeah, that's great.
thanks.
Congrats. Good to you guys.
Thank you. And that's a
Yeah.
great program that we'll be continuing.
Yeah.
A really good first year.
Another thing I think that makes you really different than a lot of the other PEO partners is your billing. I mean, you guys, anybody can just go to your website and just see what your price is. So does that going to change? Is that going to stay the same?
No anticipated changes there. To your point, it's been really positively received by
Yeah.
our customers and prospects alike. Is that level of transparency, and that's a tenet of ours that we believe in. And yeah, that no anticipated changes there. It's justworks.com/pricing if anyone's interested.
Yeah, so if you guys want to get a quote from Justworks, feel free to give me a call and happy to have a Dylan quote, or you're welcome to connect with Dylan yourself, or anybody's welcome to go to the website and just look at their pricing for their administrative fees. So Dylan, I certainly appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Could you tell my audience how to get in touch with you in the event they'd like to call you directly?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dylan@justworks.com. It's DYLAN is my email. And then my number is 646-893-7561. Yeah, one of the benefits of being one of the earlier employees, I still have just like a first name at justworks.com address.
Everybody's like first initial, last name now.
Yeah, exactly.
Long email.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, it's been a pleasure catching up with you, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the chance to get to chat.
You bet.